and just something, and half the time it's true. All right, let me get that link for everybody. Time it's true. Boom. All right, there's the link. I want to apologize for sucking a cough drop. I know it kind of like there's like this like clicky sound, right? Like, you know, with my headphones, I'm sure it's audible. So I just want to apologize. Okay. I don't know what my deal is. It's like just I don't know, allergies or something. Just having, I mean, it's not a cold, but hey everybody, how we doing? Um, Let me see, a couple quick updates. Um, so we're going to wrap up activity diagrams. We're going to blow through communication diagrams, and we're going to start into patterns of leadership, which we'll finish on Monday. Wednesday is Nico's. Oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm excited. Are we jacked for Wednesday? We did say Wednesday, right? For Nico's next week. Didn't we agree on that? The same thing.
Sounds right.
Sounds right to me, but I don't. Not claiming to have the most credibility among our group here, So, but if there's a collective, that's what I had in my head. Um, let's see. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. Patterns of leadership on Monday, and Nico's on Wednesday, which is just kind of a celebration for pretty honestly, pretty remarkably great effort on the midterm. And then I gotta I gotta think about what we're going to do down the stretch for final and stuff like that. I've been so swamped. I know you have too. It's just been a lot of things in my life going on, and plus the backlog from everything. It's just been like it has for a lot of you. It's been just one hell of a school year, and we're kind of just trying to get out the other side of it, I think, at this point. So that's kind of my motivation right now is let's just safely shepherd us all out, and come with me. We will get out of this thing. That's where I'm at right now. And then we'll button up, grade crap, and I'll talk to everybody. We'll make it fair. Just know that wherever we've been, me and Devin and Tim, wherever we have been the slacker that has created confusion or whatever, we're gonna be merciful and accommodating when it comes to grades. So just know that. Um, that's about all. I mean, at this stage, it's about all I can really offer on that. And I hope you've acquired enough trust in that, by now that we're sort of okay. If you haven't, there's not a whole lot I can do given the constraints I'm personally under to persuade you like in the next week. And then, yeah, Wednesday's the last day of the semester, and um, let me put it this way too. Whatever we do for the final is going to be, I think it's going to be less stressful than what we did for the midterm. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't want to. What's that? What's the old good guy to the villain line in like classic westerns or whatever? I don't want to kill you. You don't want to be dead. It's like I don't want to make you do it, and I don't want to grade it, and so we got to find a happy medium, in the middle of all that that allows all of us to sort of get out of here with at least some of our skin still on. That's where I'm at. Okay. Okay, that's it. Let's jump in. We had I thought my perspective actually. Hold on. I forgot to close my office doors, so I just did. I don't expect a big disruption, but you know, I thought we had a really great conversation about that. Well, about that and that. Yeah, we talked about these two. Not UML activity diagram like things with which are attempting to document workflow, right? And by the way, I just want to say again, I've been just I don't know what happens. I get into sort of noodling about things we're talking about, not like sitting down making an assignment of it, but somehow we just talk about it and things kind of distill. And I just been thinking about process, and workflow and how common it is. I have a really good friend who works in an environment where she's got to deal with just a bunch of sorry, lotion. That's why I'm doing all this. I'm not wringing my hands. I'm just so you know what I'm doing over here. Um, anyway, there's just a lot of process where it's paperwork stuff and government stuff or regulated stuff and it's like this stuff has to go here and it's really all the stuff that we're talking about would be great. And I was talking to her recently about like tell me about your process and like how is it documented, and it was a lot of kind of sit down and try to figure it out, and not necessarily clearly documented. But let's face it, an activity diagram, something like this, more detailed, obviously, but something like that would really, really help to train and communicate the next person coming through the door. And that was something that she was just dealing with like right now, these days. So I just think there's a crap ton of it in the world, in our jobs, in certain environments. But what I wanted to do, I think there's like four left. I want to hit them real quick. I don't want to spend more than about maybe 5-10 minutes on each one. Um, I'm not worried about the clock. When we're done with this, I want to get on this. There's only like 5 slides on the lecture for communication diagrams. But I do want to just hit it just to illustrate something. And I don't want to spend more than about 10 or 15 minutes on that. And I'd really love to launch into the leadership patterns. Because that's a space where I have a lot of passion and would love to talk about that. And then, it kind of brings it back around to patterns. Cool. So same thing we did last time. Um, put your thinking caps on, look at this stuff. Remember shiny objects and squeaking doors. What is shiny? What is squeaky? Right? The recognition that knowing that something sucks is the first step on the path to enlightenment, right? But it's not the end. It's not the end of the journey, but it's the start of the journey. Okay, you ready? Everybody ready? Here you go. Ready, go. And as with the previous ones, I don't know who these, I just found these. I'm just looking online sometime, I don't know, a year ago or something, and I'm looking for workflow diagrams. Yeah. What do you think? Give me the pros and cons, and I'm gonna check the timer here so we don't blow past everything. Talk to me, Tobias. I don't know what to think of those pictures. Yeah, I don't either. I hope the resolution's
See, I
enough,
was
though,
I
right?
was gonna say, I don't like the random picture of the screens. I don't know what to make of that, but I do actually don't not mind the pictures for representing the different workers or parties
Okay.
involved.
The pictures like per se.
Yeah,
How they're used becomes a separate issue, of course. But the
yeah,
pictures
yeah.
themselves, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And I think, Tobias' point was, I don't know what to think of those pictures, which is, that's a very fair starting point, right? It doesn't mean, he hasn't drawn a conclusion yet. But what he's really saying, and this is kind of important in terms of this process of design, um, and, Tobias, you might be thinking, like that you didn't really say much, but I think you said quite a bit because what you said was, I'm drawn to the pictures and they make me a little confused, so I don't quite know what to think, but it's the first thing that jumped out at you. That's an important realization. Like, I don't know what to think about X. That's your brain trying to see the patterns and alert you to it. And even if it's only in the form of, I don't know what to think about that. What are some other things?
Well, I don't know if it's just my screen being granular or whatnot, but I don't even know where to start. Like, where does that flow begin? I don't know.
Yeah, no, actually, I think that's a really, really good point, Devin. And I'm trying to like, I'm looking at my big monitor, right? And I'm kind of like leaning in here. It's not the granular, it's not your granular. I mean, it might be worse, but because I have to go look for the numbers, that's part of the problem, right? There are numbers there. The problem is that the white on colored circle, right, with 7 different numbers and all of them having a different color, right? You understand that detecting the number. Now look at just let's look at just the numbers, okay? What's the first? If you just scan around, what number is the loudest number? Because you understand, size of the circles identical, size of the font on the numbers identical, and the color of the numbers
Red.
white, right? But one of them is yelling
Red's
at
the
you. Which
most
one is
loud.
it? What's that?
Red. Red.
Okay, the red jumps out at you and yells at you, but does it yell the number at you or the color?
Just the color. It doesn't convey
Right.
any useful information.
It blinds you. It's like car headlights with a two stenciled on it, and you're just blinded. Like you don't really know, right? So I agree.
One thing that kind of irritates me, and this is the squeaking door, is you have the same like column of images in both, and there's no real like way to distinguish their difference. Like it looks like the same thing. It looks like they accidentally repeated the same thing. And that kind of goes into my second problem, which is more focused. Like I'm looking into it now, and that is the actions which the operator is doing on the top are arrows, and the notifications which are going to everybody else are also arrows. Why are notifications and
Right.
actions the same depiction?
Mixed metaphor, right? Or you could say that there's an event, right? You could say, well, they're all events, but then you're still left going with the idea that a message from a person to the system, is that really the same as a message from the system to people? I would argue they probably aren't. One is input, one is output relative to the system, right? So then that becomes a mixed metaphor. To the extent they're all messages, maybe it's a consistent metaphor, but the reality is we want to think of stuff coming from a person into the system as one kind of thing, and things coming from the system out to everybody else as another kind of thing, right? Even though technically they're all data, or they're all data flow or messages, right? Let me come back to the numbers because these are all just great, by the way. Let's come back to numbers. Which number? So who was it that said, was it Devin, that the color red was like going boom? Totally agree. So then red gets a disproportionate color focus. What's the loudest actual number? And the options are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. What's the loudest number? What do you think?
I guess 4, because it's got the most space around it.
Personally,
I
I
was
don't
gonna.
think the number is like a big deal to me at all, just because the colors speak so much louder than the numbers do.
That is right. That's a factor, right? And I totally agree, Blake. The challenge, though, but so right, that's a big problem right now. The color is dominating, but that's not actually the information. You've got pixels confounding, confusing, obscuring what it is you're trying to show them, which is that this happens first, then this happens second, then this happens third. It's a temporal order, right? But the colors, once again, 7 different colors, but there's no intrinsic meaning. But not only that, the eye is drawn, and I'm agreeing with whoever was it that said that, was that Braden, that I think that the number 4 jumps out loudest, but I don't think it's because there's more room around it, even though that's true. It is the one with the most room. And I think that maybe contributes. But I think
I
that,
will play devil's advocate a little bit for them, though.
wait, say that again, Blake?
I just said I would play devil's advocate for them a little bit, though, here. Just with the colors, if you once you like look into it and really understand it, it's like how else could you differentiate these lines? Like if they were all the same color, there'd be a lot of mix up because
Right.
like the purple lines go on the other side of the blue line.
Yep.
It's like
So let's talk about that, because I agree with what you're saying, except for one thing you said that I completely disagree with, but I'll explain. Number one, giving them credit. By the way, my line usually when someone says, let me play devil's advocate, is that I usually say the devil doesn't need an advocate. But it's also fair to argue to at least explore both, multiple sides. But what does make sense is if you can get past the weird messaging on the numbering, that all the things that are part of step 1 are orange, and then all the things that are part of step 2 are red. And it does give you a sort of a grouping, right? Orange is a group, red is a group, green is a group, purple is a group, right? Blue is a group, etc. So I agree with that. Totally agree with that. Here's the problem. This is the part I disagree, Blake. I was asking about the numbers, and you said the lines. So in other words, I'm agreeing with you about the lines, but it wasn't my question, or the thing that and then it's like, well, what would you do differently? Also, what would you do differently is the brainstorm question. And the reason that patterns, if you remember, are cool is that they are solutions to problems in a context in which there are competing forces, right? And the forces have to compete, and it takes some effort to let that noodle out until the balancing of the forces is achieved. So what about this? Let me go back to the numbers, okay? The loudest number is 4. The loudest circle is 2. All right? What is the quietest circle? Ignore the numbers. What's the quietest circles? What do you think?
I would probably say the yellow one because it looks the closest to the background, or
Yeah.
maybe 7, but
Where I'd go 1 or 7, right? Agreed. The yellow or the powder blue, whatever. So what you have here is independent of the colors, right? Interestingly, the colors, when they are part of lines, don't strike me as offensive. Not quite as offensive. You know what I mean? The yellow or orange line feels okay compared to the red line or the green line or the purple line as lines. But somehow when I make it go boink, it's different, right? And what you have is you have the quietest circles are 1 and 7. The loudest circle is 2. The loudest number is 4. And I would say that the quietest number is 1, in my opinion, based on looking at it. So back to our question, where do we start? At the quietest visual representation where the eye is least likely to be drawn, so that the brain has to process a bunch of crap. By crap, I just mean extraneous to the point, right? Not that it's all crapola, but you know what I mean? That it's all ancillary to what we really want to know. What you want here is that this graph immediately draws the eye to, and I don't know what the diamonds are for, by the way, that the eye is immediately drawn to where we want you to start. And this is like the opposite of that. Where I want you to start is literally obscured, you know, like hidden. I've got to work at it to overcome a bunch of noise to get to the quietest part of the entire graph. Okay, but I've already said I'm not offended by the lines. You know, I'm really not. So what's how do you reconcile? Well, there's a couple of ways. One is you just pick a color for all the circles and let that be the same, like black, for example, right? If I made all those numbers black, but the text was a different color even, would I lose anything or would I gain something? And you understand, I don't know, like, here's Chuck's list of the 8 things that make this graph perfect. You know, I don't have that, right? I'm just brainstorming. I'm just live processing, just like you guys. But what would happen if we made all those black? First of all,
It'd be a lot easier to read.
I think it would. I think they would all, whatever it was, first of all, the white on black is going to be the most, we would go for the loudest number, and then we would make that uniform. So everybody would have it. Now you're like, well, yeah, but what about the color? Well, one approach is let the text be the color. But the problem with that is that the text also then would tend to disappear. The yellow text is harder to read than the blue text or the green text. So you'd have the same problem where yellow text and powder blue text are the hardest. Number 2 text, red, it actually just like torques the eyeball to try to just read red on white, you know, red on off white, you know what I mean? It torques the eyeball a little bit because of the whole rods and cones and the cones and the colors and the color perception stuff. Same reason if you put like red and blue, you know, and it'll literally like look 3-dimensional, or one of them will look further back than the other. You know, your brain is trying to make sense of these colors that, you know. Anyway, what I would probably do, can I go to what I would think I would probably do? There's also one other funky problem, which is that the location of the text is kind of all over the place, right? I mean, look how, 2 is equidistant between the red and the green lines. 3 is equidistant between the green line and the circle containing dude bros in matching sweaters. I don't know. In matching sweater vests. I don't know what they're, you know what I mean? I don't know what that is. Right? It's weirdly positioned. So, and none of those are actually positioned where the event is starting, right? Like 3 is positioned near the end. 2 is, you know what I mean, at the end of the flow. 2 is positioned near the end of the flow. 1 is kind of in the middle. 4 is actually before the beginning of the blue. 5 is way the heck out, sitting in a cornfield somewhere nearby. 6 is well before. 6 appears to be a label for the column of bodies, not the label for what happens in the green line. And 7, which could be snugged up, is just, again, sitting there half a block away smoking a cigarette. You know, I don't know what 7's doing, right? Okay, so where do you go? Where do you go? How do we fix it? Number of ideas. Let me throw out a bunch of ideas. And then we'll move on. But one way to fix it, we've already got, at this point, okay, we've got black circles with the numbers, and we have black text. Now, by the way, there's an entire question about the text. Because the text itself, I think, is a little bit problematic. But ignore that for now. What about putting the black number close to the circle that shows the origins of all those signals, right? So you take the one, put it over, near the beginning. So the eye is drawn to the beginning, which then sets you up to follow the flow. Because right now, every time I see a color, I got to go hunting for the color. Oh, and by the way, number 5 has 2 origin points. And yes, Rick and gang who were saying this earlier, I still don't know what the diamonds are for. Or the shield, I got 2 diamonds and a shield. What is the shield for? But one approach is you put the 1 over by the dot, then maybe like a little line over to the text for the explanation. And you put 2 up there near the circle, and then maybe a line to go for the explanatory text. And then you sort of space that where the text is uniformly comfortable, and then lines can take you, to those starting spots. Just an idea, and maybe that's a great idea, or maybe it's a bad idea. Also, this box down here at the bottom, I don't know what that is for, but it's a lot of wasted space. Anyway, there's other burning questions. I've got plant operator, asset manager, trader, outage coordinator. There's 2 of them, so I'm still confused. And the fact that these 4 are just repeated, you know what I mean? That's a redundancy. You've got the 4 guys, and then the same 4 guys, and then the same 4 guys, but it feels like they're going to different guys, right? As it moves to the end where all parties are notified. But if these are really the same 4 objects, right? Imagine an object diagram in which you literally just keep replicating the object so you can show stuff happening and then it coming back to the object. You know what I mean? What's actually happening here is the operator requests a change, a message goes out to the parties, the outage coordinator, feeds something back to whatever, the system, the Versify system, which then notifies everybody. Well, 3 of them get notified, and then whatever do. This is a process flow, but by replicating the 4 objects when they really are trying to be the same person, they've compromised and created a sort of it's like a graphic convenience that actually trashes your meaning, totally obscures. But what if it were instead like, remember the swim lanes, right? Or maybe it's like, objects that all persist over time. And then you can see, what if we did messages going here? Message comes back, message goes to, everybody, zing, zing, zing. You know what I mean? What was that one we were doing? The, man, why am I blanking? What was that one called that we were doing? I'm going to pull it up. Hang on a second. What is it called? Was it the sequence diagrams? Yeah, sequence diagrams, right? Like for example, I don't know if that'll show, right? There's sequence diagram. For example, right? Supervisor, foreman, dude, right? Whatever these people are, right? You can even use something like this to say, now it all makes sense. The time's going and a signal gets sent to all the others, right? Stuff comes back. Where's it going out to and where's it coming back from as a function of time, which is moving from top to bottom. There's a lot of things you can do with this thing, but this is, okay, Dr. K gives this one a solid failing grade, but kudos for making us work at it and for having this many problems, providing this little actual information. Remember Tufty and I talked about, the idea of, information per pixel versus pixels per information. This is a good example of a lot of pixels for actually fairly small amount of information. But you got to stop by saying, nope, you don't have the privilege of replicating the objects 3 times in the same graphic. No, you don't. because that immediately obscures all of your meaning and intention. Okay, moving on. Let's do it. You ready? I know you are. Let me see. Okay, once again, not UML. I got just three left. This one and two more, okay? This one definitely has the, sorry, hang on, Braden, what have we got? Oh, is this your attempt? Braden, was that your attempt at maybe a compromise with?
I would use that template to make it. I might put the diamond back in some way, but I would have columns that are maybe color coordinated that show each step in a linear format that's more discernible. And then I would have one image for each person, which you can see is tied to a certain Y value on the design. And everything that applies to them would be at their level. That's how I do it.
I would just say, and I don't want to belabor this, but and I appreciate the throwing it out there. You know what I mean? Like take a crack at it. Way too much color, empty space.
Oh, I was just using their colors. I would probably change.
No. I'm just saying.
Colors.
I'm just saying, irrespective of using their colors, this is just too much color, and there's a kind of an ability to finesse empty space and use color sparsely. For example, a colored outline with a clear to read and easy on the eyes sort of white interior can still deliver color without bludgeoning you over the head with color. Just saying. That's like the first reaction. But anyway, let me just kind of move on to this one. What have we got?
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Go on.
Purchase order workflow.
Oh, I also wanted to point out that in my version, I would have, for the more important things, the columns would be wider, and for the less important things, they'd be narrower. But anyway,
okay,
that's the last thing.
Interesting. Okay, check this one out. Now, what are again, good, bad? What are a couple of good things right out of the chute? Let's do the good things first. What do you think? Talk to me. What's good? And I know you're like, whoa, Dr. K, there's something good? Yeah, sometimes there's something good.
One thing I do like about this is there was some redundancy with the employees having to have 3 of them, and here we've reduced that at least to 1 column.
Okay.
So that's
different company, different model, different thing, but right. But the first thing, let me jump out. The first thing that I see is swim lanes, right? I mean, I see the stuff relating to the CFO going sort of left to right. I could have done it, vertically and top to bottom, but it works. The stuff relating to the finance manager, right? Again, in a swim lane, and the stuff relating to the employee in a swim lane. I like that. That really is like the activity diagrams. Well, whatever the ones were with the sequence diagrams with the swim lanes, right? Because doesn't it immediately tell you, wow, that finance manager is really involved here, and so are the employees, and the CFO not so much. There's immediately information being conveyed, even just by the fact that one swim lane is clogged and the others are not. In contrast, where this gives you no such feel, but if you took these 4 people there, the plant operator, et cetera, and did it like this, where messages were, moving between the swim lanes, you see how much better it would be?
I would offer 2 pieces of advice for this one.
Yeah, Braden.
And that is, I think the CFO lane is entirely unnecessary. Number 1, because I think the CFO knows his job without having to look at 2 boxes. But I just feel like they couldn't convey that information without making his lane at all.
But here's the problem with that, Braden. Let me push back, okay?
Okay.
this is purchase order workflow. By the way, I also like that there's a label, doink, right? When I go here, it's like, what are we what are we modeling? I don't know, right? That I kind of know. But here, purchase order workflow, I know exactly what it is. But if this is trying to document, right? In other words, Braden, you don't know who the audience of this thing is. I doubt the audience for this document is
Oh,
the
no, I
CFO.
agree with you there. But just hear me out real quick.
Yeah.
You see the diamond in the middle one that goes down to the task for CFO?
If the purchase order is over $10,000.
Yeah. Imagine now that instead of going down towards the CFO so it can go right, so it can go back up, it just goes straight up to it.
What do you mean? What goes straight up
Instead
to
of going
what?
down in a loop, it could just go straight up.
Wait, straight up from where to where though?
Well, all it has to say is have a little blurb between the two that says the CEO approves or he doesn't approve.
I think the problem there, though, Braden, is that we do have another user. So there's like another party that would be kind of disaffected if they were removed from that. Like there's not a column representing them anymore.
The CFO?
Yeah.
Well, the other question that
All
I
he needs
have,
to know is that one spot. He just approves or rejects it.
yeah. But here's the biggest problem that I have is, to me, the empty space in the CFO swim lane is information about this
Okay.
process. It says this is the only part in the process where the CFO gets involved. And I might need to, this might be going to the financial controller of the company, or to the external auditors, or to, I don't know who the audience is. In
Well,
which
in my
case,
version, it still has the CEO. It just doesn't make a whole lane for a person that does one thing.
but the problem with that is you now have two bodies. You have three people, but two of them get swim lanes and one does not. Now you've got a mixed metaphor where there are
Okay,
people who don't have
I
lanes.
agree with that.
And that's the biggest
Well,
problem.
my
But
second thing is more simple, and that is it kind of looks like it warps time. I would probably try to line the things up so that they're more, because like you see how you have a bunch of curving arrows so that things that are not in the same column can get to each other. I'd maybe put a
right.
little space so it doesn't do that as much.
In other
and they
words,
don't have to.
like for example, when the CFO rejects, right, a PO over $10,000, then we go back in time, right, up to the employee, et cetera, right, that feeds this whole rejection thing. Now, it might be the case that that's difficult because if the finance manager rejects it, it's pretty quick, but if the CFO rejects it, it's slower. So it may be, you know what I mean, that there's like an if then else on time fragmentation, because it's sort of one picture really when it's, over 10,000, it's another picture when it's not, and if it's below, the rejections are going to come faster. But it still looks a little funky to back it up, with the squiggle lines. And do they have to all be 90-degree angles? I don't know. Let's hit a couple other things and then move on to the other one. I'll tell you another one that bothers me. I get the idea of green means start and red means stop. First of all, start and end, I guess that works. But you've got a sort of a pastel green and a freaking hot red, and my eye is kind of it's the green is pleasant, and then the red is like offending my eye. My retinas are like in pain whenever I have to look at the end. You know what I mean? Also, what else is going to bother me? How about two ends? I think there should be a finish line. You know what I mean? That everybody can kind of feed into the finish line, that the end is the end, you know, unless it's really two different ends. But I mean, that's a bother. What else? Good or bad? I like I like the almost almost class diagram like uh, use of the boxes with a label that has a certain color, and you know what I mean, with the text inside. Um, I would probably tend to center all the text vertically in these boxes, you know, because that is centered, even though it's filled. Centered, 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 bottom justified, bottom justified, bottom. And I know you could be like, well, that's probably bottom as well, but it just fills it up. Sure. At the end of which it looks centered. Therefore, you look a little funny. Um, Gotchas being, I don't know what the dashed line means. Maybe I can figure it out, but I don't know. Orange versus blue creates again a visual mismatch, and green creates a visual mismatch. Again, I would recommend something like use the color as a highlight somewhere instead of the whole thing. Okay. So white on the color creates a visual difference where if you could somehow, you know, even if it was like black text on white and then an orange border around it versus a green border, a blue border, you know what I mean? You'd get a uniformity on the visual pop from the label and still get the color differentiation if indeed, uh, as we can kind of see, blues are tasks and oranges are actions and greens are email. The other approach is you make all of those colors, you let them be color coded, but you make them all more kind of pastel. So they don't seem, uh, they're different colors, but they don't stress the retina with the difference of the colors. It's a little more, easy on the eyeball. And the diamonds are consistently decisions, which I like. Last shots. In my mind, so far of the ones we've looked at, uh, this is clearly, for my money, the best so far that we've seen. Just, for what it's worth, right? And I don't have to be right either, right? I don't know that that's true. For my money, that's the way I would call it. I think this is the best so far by a fair piece. Okay, quite a bit. And by the way, what I'm talking about, see how the little header here with the title creates a highlight, but all of the body text is consistent. See how much more readable that is compared to, remember this? You remember that one, right? You've got that, you're creating that visual problem of overlaying text on different colors. Here you get similar things in the body. Here you get it, and we talked about it. Here at least all the body text, and you notice how easy it is to read the body text compared to those others? Yeah. And yet you're still using a highlight at the top. You know what I mean? To differentiate tasks from actions from emails, you know. Yeah. Way better still on balance. Okay, let's go next one, okay? I got two more. I feel like I need an alcoholic beverage or something. I don't even drink, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like this one makes me think about it.
That's a diagram that's used as a stock diagram for a movie where it's not important what it says, it just has to look official.
No, that might be it. Maybe I don't know. What do you think? I mean, there's not much to say because we don't know what in the crap this is doing. Now, it's also possible that for again, these things tune to the audience, right? It may be that the audience for this diagram, that it's a shorthand and they know what the stuff means, and therefore it's a handy reminder and they don't need all of that. just grant that that's a possibility. I don't know. So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that this audience doesn't need any words to understand the icons. Is that fair? Do you think that'd be fair?
This looks like it was just something made by an artist, just for this is what technical people do.
Right? I don't know. But any other, I don't know, man. This one is just like a fever dream. I don't know what I heard. Who's going, Blake?
Yeah, unrelated. I put like my best shot at redoing the first one into our general chat, but it's pretty basic because I didn't use any colors. It was just something I drew on my piece of paper.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I mean, as an exploration, same with Braden's, right? I mean, you got to start. You got to start by putting something out there, which itself is going to have some suck and probably some advantage, right? And you got to kind of work it. Tobias doesn't know what's going on this graphic. Yeah, nobody does, Tobias. I don't really know, honestly. Maybe I don't know. Is there anything more to say here? I don't know. I don't know. I do notice that this is the same color as that. This is clearly a warning. That's I don't know. Okay, which I don't know. I don't think any of us can actually tell. Okay, but I thought it was interesting, and I mean, it's like, but I mean, the colors aren't unpleasant. Although, also notice the colors here on this little sliders settings seems to say that these three fans are the same color. That feels funky. The black really pops. These colors are the same as this one, which is a monitor, obviously. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. I don't have much to say. I don't know what to say about this one.
I honestly think this would be kind of okay if they had a legend or a key.
It might be. It very well might
Because
be.
I've noticed a lot of all the activity diagrams and diagrams we looked at can get kind of wordy, especially if they're trying to fit it all in a little diamond and nobody can read what's going on, and it gives you a headache just looking at it. But they took it a little bit far here, where you have no idea what any of this means.
Well, this is the other extreme, really, right? I mean, and it's good to kind of go, well, we keep, griping and moaning about the words and let's just get rid of all the words. Now what happens? Now are you happy?
Yeah, why use many word when few word do trick?
Thank you, Kevin. Tobias said person one gives approval for person two to connect to the internet. Okay, I like this. He's taking a crack at this. Kudos to Tobias. Person three then uses that internet to select from three packaging options. Okay. And person one is sacrificed to them. Excellent. I like that. After some processing, will either result in an error or render some statistics. Okay, I got to give Tobias some credit for maybe having won the chat right there so far, but the game is still afoot, so there's still a chance to reclaim. But I think Tobias might be the strong leader for having won the chat today with that attempt at speculative interpretation about what the crap this thing's trying to say. In fact, it'd be fun. It would be funny. We could even, if you wanted to play with this, throw this up as like an exam question and just go, be as funny as you can possibly be or as stupid, and just give me a plausible, explanation for what this graph is trying to say. And what's really interesting about that is, given everything I know about, visual representation, graphic design, the reality is that would be actually an important, and it would be a reasonable cognitive exercise to do that, just to make up a story that is most creative, to go with this thing. I think it would be fantastic to do that as an exercise. And the truth is, it would be somewhat valuable. And I also like the fact that over here, this second one, the tall rectangular box, it only goes to one fan, but we have to squiggle it. But it only goes, if that one was up top, it would just go straight to that fan. And then if that last fan was next and this box was next, it would just go to that fan, but this one would go to two fans. See it? Do you see it? Okay. Package 1 leads to insured statistics. What are the fans? Packaging 2 has no chance. Packaging 3, 50-50 chance. I like that as well. Okay. Alrighty, let's go to the last one here. This is really fascinating because I don't even know. I don't even know if it's serious. Okay, here we go. Last one I got. Last one in these slides. Okay, let's see. What have we got? Number 1, we got swim lanes again. I like the swim lanes. Honestly, I really like the swim lanes. I got a little bit of confusion about the fact that this looks like everything is kind of going in and out like a funky state machine or whatever, but all the temporal dependencies are hammered, you know? And maybe it's just because you run out of white space or something, right? Because by the way, you start here. The problem is designer, designer dude seems to be literally the one pushing the button, which is sort of like okay, except for the fact that I then have this funky, metaphor for starting. But at least it's not I don't know. I can kind of find it, but because it sort of appears to be like more like skin tone than abstract representation, it's obscured a little bit. It's hidden. It doesn't draw the eye to it. Maybe. I don't know. You redesign and upload. And yeah, okay, I'm really struggling here. So the problem I have is like, is this a state machine or is it a workflow? Because what's going to happen here is I'm right here on the redesign and upload. Then I kick it over here and I have it reviewed. It goes to a padlock and goes to the redesign and upload. Is that a loop? Are we looping? The
I assume
padlock.
the lock is something like an acceptance thing, where the engineer says, "I accept this, keep going," or "No, I don't accept it, go back to the drawing board."
Might, and of course we don't know, right? And I don't know. I mean, when I went and looking for these graphics, they didn't come with any explanations. I just found them, was like, okay, this will be an interesting thing to talk about. We've also got two little, success moments, I think. But again, are they different? Because you could have different people in different swim lanes who each have their own independent success, right? That could be a thing. Everything doesn't always have to come back to the same, one success or completion. But I don't know if that's the case here. I don't know, man. Okay, this is pretty sparse on. So temporal dependencies are difficult to perceive. That looks like an email. That's not unpleasant. They're using the same icon for this phase, right? Which is nice. But I've got a yellow pencil and an orange pencil and no pencil. I don't know what that means. And is it just me, or does that look like, those little bird unit things that sit on like water cups, and then they wait until they like tip and then they come back up? It looks like a side view of a bird head to me. And I think it's trying to be, maybe it is, I think it's trying to be a magnifying glass. But that's an eyeball, man. Is that eyeball to anybody else but me?
Yes. An eyeball on a stick. Yep.
An eyeball on a stick, or maybe a magnifying glass placed over an eyeball.
Nah, that's a pizza cutter at Nico's.
No, pizza cutters are solid. Well, in my
I was
view,
just being concerned.
no, I get it. In my view, that it's a, I don't know, man. It's a screwed up metaphor. That to me, that icon does not work. The combo padlock doesn't work as a sort of a gatekeeper moment or whatever. I don't know. Conclusion with all of these, everything is suck. I may have been loading this set with bad examples. I mean, I really don't remember. It's been a while since I grabbed these, to be honest. I think I was okay with getting good examples. I just don't know that I found any at the time. I don't know. So I hope that was interesting, because again, after all that UML, right? So to make this point again, you could have readily, done this. I mean, okay, having had UML, and then if you were asked to go do this thing, what I would be doing is going back to your UML stuff to say, well, what kind of graph really, oh, sorry, the fade has come upon me. Like, what kind of diagram is the right kind? Then you don't have to use the UML syntax for their boxes and their whatever, but it can guide you again in terms of principles, right? For the kinds of things that are built in. Okay, Braden, I'm checking out what you got here. You put the CFO in the middle.
I missed an arrow. I didn't realize, but there should be an arrow from the first yellow box on the top left to the task in the middle for the CDF.
Okay,
Wait,
fair enough.
where does it go? Long story short, though. Oh no, I put from start to the bottom left task. It should go from the action.
I like the
But
curly Q loop.
I think this kind of flows a little better. I also like the one end coming from both of the emails for reject or approve. Kind of shows, hey, this is the same thing. It's just one is yes and one's no.
Yep. The other thing you can do there that jumps out at me, when you put them side by side, you realize how many redundant words there are, right? For example, you already have email. Receives, you get that for free by saying email. Notification email, you get that for free by saying email. That the PO, you get that for free. It's already called a purchase order workflow. Request, you get
honestly
all you need to do is
all
go.
of the diagrams in here would look great on an animated presentation, like a PowerPoint or something. But as like a static image, yeah, it's way too much repetition even now, even with this.
This diagram, I'm right with what you've done here, Braden, but we need to borrow some of these icons and port them over to really deliver the goods solidly. So I am, of course, joking. But okay. Yeah, man. No, but but here's what I like about, okay, what you just did, Braden. Okay, independent of the little curly,
oh no, that's vital. That needs to stay.
The 10-meter platform with the little half gainer twist. But no, like when it goes email and it just goes rejection, approved, rejected, approved, right? There are two emails that all the context. All the words do there is make, there's just too many words. Like under task where it goes, generate PO, Anyway, look at getting rid of words. Eliminate and delete your way to glory. Delete anything that you already get for free without having to say it. I just want to show you, by way of communication diagrams, just this one slide. Okay. This one is a communication diagram. That is what this slide set of 5 slides is all about. That is a sequence diagram. What do you think? They convey basically the same information. What do you like? And why? What's good, what's bad?
This is maybe a solvable problem, but I tend to prefer the diagram on the right. That's the communication one, correct?
Yep. Yeah, tell me why.
Yeah, just because it's a lot more legible and to me, and it's easier to follow the thought process there. Just that's probably because I'm familiar with state diagrams and sort of how they work, but just the fact that I don't know, it just feels more intuitive to me.
Totally fair. Because you lose the swim lanes. Those aren't strictly speaking swim lanes, right? But you got that, right? You got that kind of swim lane feel, right? For the 4. Over here, though, they're just objects, though. What's that?
I feel like at the beginning, just looking at this, the right looks more friendly. But then once you actually get into it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I've got to read 1.1, 1.2.
Right.
So at that point, then I like the one on the left more.
And I'm kind of with you, Blake, on my own. I kind of go back and forth, right? I mean, when I look to the left, there's just something nice about, again, let's call it just like swim lanes. Well, let's just call it swim lanes anyway. I don't care if you draw a line, you know what I mean, like you do in the other diagrams. These are like swim lanes, you know what I mean? Time goes that way, and I can organize the flow when that flow is kind of a function of time. And there is that thing, but I totally agree with whoever made the first comment. I can't remember who said it, but relative to this communication diagram on the right, it does kind of invite you to go, oh, here are the players. Once I know it's not a state diagram, strictly speaking, because there's not the order state and the order line state. It's not a state diagram. But it does lead me to go, okay, I got to go 1. Now I got to go, where's 1.2? There's 1.2. Oh, crap, there's a 1.1. Oh, what comes after 1? 2? No, 1.1. Right? And I'm bearing a bit of cognitive load is all to piece it together. Whereas over here, it's like, and by the way, ignore all the dashy stuff, right? Because these are there. I think the one on the left looks unfairly cluttered because it's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 explanatory, text and dashes that aren't even part of the diagram. And the communication diagram doesn't have that, right? But when I go over here, it's just like, oh, the order gets a quantity from an order line. It gets the product comes back, Whereas, but on the other hand, there is also a point, like let's say, for example, I have this other document that shows all the steps, and I'm not concerned about looking at this communication diagram in order to find the thing. I want to just look at the details for step 1.3, and then I look up and I'm like, yeah, there's 1.3, and maybe I'm not trying to use this to piece together the order. But to the extent I am, it suffers. Whereas the other one, the order of events is quite clear and doesn't even need a label. But one's not like intrinsically the winner. There's a reason why we have communication diagrams. Because there are sequences, and this is kind of the point. There are sequences, there are activities like workflows, there are communications. Sometimes there is a sequence of activities and communications so that you really can represent one way or the other. And that's kind of just what that's meant to just get you thinking about. Okay. Cool with that? Oh, yeah. Okay. So here's what I want to do because we got 9 minutes left. Nico's. I'm excited for Nico's next week. Let me just say it. Just FYI.
I'm pretty pumped too.
I'm pretty jacked.
You can see my profile picture is me holding or dropping pizza.
I fixed that second one again. I'm uploading it right now. It's much better this time.
Wait. Okay. Is this the one that Braden just, was that Braden?
Oh,
Okay.
it has a weird comment about the Nintendo Wii U for no reason. I
Okay.
forgot to edit that part.
I'm giving it a read here.
I would have to think of something to put in that top one, but
Yeah, no, that's fantastic actually. Okay. I really like. Okay, listen, Tobias, I'm really sorry, but I think Braden just overtook you for winning the chat. I mean, I understand that hurts a little bit, but I gotta go with my gut on this one. Okay, I think Braden won the chat on that. I mean, give him his props. You know, it's only fair. But the prize is everybody gets pizza, so it's gonna be okay. Okay. Okay, let's do my little patterns of leadership. There's only 12 slides here, but you understand that every single one of these slides is a prompt to Chuck to go ham on a philosophical speech. So these 12 slides, 11 of them containing content, are in practice probably the prompts for 11 hours of lecture. Just understand that. I'm going to control myself because we only have one more class period to dork around with this. And then it's pizza time in the big city. Here we go. All right. My friend Phil Armour from The Laws of Software Process. This is the book, right, that the Orders of Ignorance came out of that I reference and we talk about it. It became clear to me. So I'm calling these patterns of leadership. I don't know. It's a random collection, I think, of things that are patterns that could be written in pattern form. So anyway, Armour said, it became clear to me that software is not a product and that software systems we build and sell are not products in the classical sense. They are simply containers for knowledge. And I think this is why, this is why Phil and I, we've actually struck up a friendship over just kind of remote via email over the past few years. And you all know how sort of philosophically obtuse I can get, right? And Armour's a man after my own heart, and it's part of the reason we've gotten along so well in our exchanges. The most recent of which was literally like 2 days ago. But the true product was not the system; it was the knowledge that went into making the system. I think it's kind of profound. Oh, the other really cool thing, by the way, I think I don't know if I've mentioned to you that I'm planning on getting out of Dodge and doing a little road tripping this summer. I mean, we've all been quarantined and locked down, and I haven't left the state of Utah in I don't even know, year and a half or something. Like, haven't crossed the state line for a while. And I was, I used to be gold medallion, you know what I mean, on Delta, So I'm used to traveling a lot and to a lot of places, and so I'm planning to get out, and I've got family in Iowa and family in Missouri, and good friends kind of along the way. You know, Texas, Nebraska, other family in Idaho, and I'm just planning to do a road trip, right? Get out of town. Anyway, so Armor actually lives approximately along the pathway um, on my loop when I come out of Iowa and head northwest coming out of that. And we've actually set up to get together when I'm out there just in person. I've never met him in person. I've been using his book for freaking 15 years, I think, that I've been using his laws of software process and lecturing from it. Isn't that cool? I mean, isn't that cool? That's the human connection, right? But I just wanted to share that because I'm actually really excited about it. He's a guy that I just have a lot of intellectual respect for, and frankly, with the Orders of Ignorance and this book with the horrible title, um, kind of changed my life. Changed, 15 years ago, in terms of how I thought about a lot of things. I can count to kind of a pivot point from when I came across, Armor's stuff, and I've told him that. I've shared that with him, and so very cool. That's just Chuck's personal share, okay. And again, more Armor. Software is knowledge made active. Now, think about this from a design perspective, right? This whole quest that we call design. Software is knowledge made active. The difficult and time-consuming activity in creating software is not one of transcribing our already available knowledge into the active form. It is in effectively acquiring this knowledge in the first place. Back to the Orders of Ignorance and back to the idea that the number one thing you will do as a software developer professionally is learn. And it's the strangest thing in the world to think about. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. People are just going to pay me to learn? Yep. That is what you're doing constantly when you're building software. Um, Even more specifically, it is in finding the essential knowledge necessary to make the system work that we don't even know we're missing. That is, again, what we don't know that we don't know, right? Not knowing what we don't know. Let me see what I got, because there's like, I already know there's like, I don't know, I don't remember what's actually in this slide set, frankly. I only know there's not that much. Now there's another book which is in the library down the hall by Jim McCarthy. It is another one of those books, and I wonder if I've got a couple quotes, but I don't have I really should put the site on that book. I think that, let me just check real quick. I'm going to drop a link. The last time I checked, I think McCarthy's book was actually out of print, as is, I believe, Armor's book. I'm just looking real quick. No, it's in stock. It's still. Oh, check it out. Check it out. I think you're going to get a kick out of this. This is the Amazon page for Armor's book, right? Isn't that a butt ugly cover? I mean, let's be really, really honest about this. And I've talked to Phil about this, okay? But that is a butt ugly cover, and that is, I think, a boring. I never would have, come to this book or embraced it if I hadn't had a grad student come and tell me there's a book, you need to read it. It's an ugly title and it's an ugly cover, and you really need to read this book. But here's the part I like right here: purchase 3 times. That's actually, because I would just buy copies for my grad students and stuff like that. Last purchased in 08. Okay, let me go. We're about out of time. Jim McCarthy. There we go, right here. Okay, purchased 2 times because again, I would give it away sometimes to people. There we go. That's the book by Jim McCarthy, Dynamics of Software Development. Now, what's interesting is the little, as you can see, the pull quote here. Don't flip the bozo bit, and 53 more rules for delivering great software on time. Okay, what's another word for rule per our comprehension and understanding, which has expanded over the course of this semester, right? These are patterns. These are patterns. These are 54 patterns by Jim McCarthy. And in these patterns are some of the most brilliant, in my opinion, some of the most brilliant in terms of insight and truth, and beautiful in terms of just verbal, textual expression of the concept that I've ever seen anywhere. And I've read a lot of books and a lot of things about the software industry and software development. I'm not underexposed to what's been written about software, and for my money, this book by McCarthy contains some of the most profoundly beautiful and rich expressions of truth in the software development process that I've ever seen anywhere. Not unlike Alexander in a sense, and I'm maybe giving McCarthy too much credit. I don't mean to. I think Alexander stands unique and preeminent in certain respects, obviously, and I don't place McCarthy in that sort of same position of foundational respect. But I'm telling you, this is some amazingly beautiful stuff. It's also richly and intensely philosophical. So again, if you're just like, wah, give me some code to write, maybe this is not your book. But if you're Dr. K, this stuff is just like pudding cup, man. This is like, give me a spoon. So good, so good. So we're out of time. But when we come back, let me shut that down. We'll come back to this right here, okay? Which is like right after armor. And then there's like, there's a few things here that, coming up that we'll wrap up next time. And it's probably not a bad time. By the way, I've been scouting around to try to figure out if I could bring in the right kind of guest speaker, striking out a little bit. And I'm just so swamped time-wise that I can't do much more. But I think it's going to work out okay. I think we've got there's enough meat remaining here in these patterns of leadership to spend a productive and I hope really enjoyable Monday on it. And then of course Nico's on Wednesday, and I think we're going to be fine, to sort of get out with that and end with some really cool patterns that are critical. Okay, that's all I got for now. Thanks for the discussion. I love the discussions that we have. It's been really cool, and as you can tell, so much is a path of discovery. We're figuring this crap out right in real time. I don't, I'm not wandering around with this package of all the answers. Everything is contextual, and every new moment is a new moment where maybe everything you knew is now wrong. And that's the caution that I take into everything I try to look at. So I'm always reanalyzing in the moment about the current dynamics. So I'm trying to kind of model that adventure, that journey for you. Okay, but I'm done. I'm going to stop. See you on Monday.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Lecture.
Ci vediamo a tutti.